Hey everyone, welcome to this explainer on effective supervision. Look, if you're stepping up to guide a team, especially as a residence coordinator or residence life coordinator, this was built specifically for you. We all know managing a team in res life is, well, incredibly dynamic. You're juggling students, administrative duties, crisis management, and team dynamics. And yeah, sometimes literally all at 2 a.m. So let's jump right in and explore how you can build a truly thriving, supportive environment for your staff.
But before we get into the nuts and bolts, I want you to take a quick second and think back to your own experiences. What is your definition of a good supervisor? What specific qualities define the absolute best, or maybe even the absolute worst, supervisor you've ever worked under? Usually it's not their technical skills we remember, right? It's how they communicated with us, how they supported us, or unfortunately, how they micromanaged us. Keep that best supervisor in your mind as our target for today.
Today, we're distilling some really brilliant insights from Dr. Nietzsche McClinton Gates, the Associate Director of Residence Life at the University of Central Arkansas. Her core philosophy is beautifully captured right in her title, Supervision, Go as Far as You Grow. The whole foundational premise here is that as a supervisor, your ability to lead others is directly tied to your own ongoing personal growth. I mean, it makes sense, right? You absolutely cannot pour into your staff if your own cup is completely empty.
To get there, we'll follow a clear 5-step growth model today. 1. The foundation of leadership. 2. Building strong working relationships. 3. Mastering clear communication. 4. Effective delegation and coaching. And finally, 5. Overcoming common supervisor struggles.
All right, kicking things off with Section 1, the foundation of leadership. And this starts directly with you.
See, effective leadership requires being a lifelong learner, and that education, it literally starts with looking in the mirror. Before you even attempt to manage other people, you have to deeply understand yourself. What are your likes, your dislikes, your pet peeves? How do you naturally tend to lead? You need to honestly map out your strengths, the areas where you just naturally excel, and your weaknesses, the areas you're still developing. And most importantly, you need a solid professional development plan. Whether that means reading books, attending conferences, or leading new initiatives, you gotta remain committed to your own continuous growth so you don't end up stagnating in your role.
Once you actually know your own default settings, so to speak, you must be willing to step outside your comfort zone. Having a personalized supervisory style means recognizing that your natural way of doing things might not be what a specific staff member actually needs. You have to be willing to make intentional accommodations for your team. Look, if you're a highly detail-oriented person but you have a staff member who thrives on big-picture autonomy, you have to adapt how you manage them. There's a phrase from our source material that might sound a bit cliché at first, but honestly, it is absolute management gold. Employees are like snowflakes. It simply means that every single staff member is uniquely different. What motivates one resident assistant might completely discourage another. So a highly personalized approach isn't just some nice bonus, it's an absolute requirement for effective supervision in residence life. Moving right along to Section 2, building strong working relationships. It's time to truly connect with your team. With a solid personal foundation established, the very next step is genuinely connecting. And look, you can't just tell your staff you care. You have to actively show them through consistent action. Building strong relationships relies on a few core elements. It requires regular one-on-ones where you are truly, fully present. It requires establishing deep trust through active listening. And by that I mean listening to understand, not just waiting for your turn to speak. It means showing genuine appreciation for their efforts. And crucially, keeping their confidence. If a staff member shares something with you in trust, protecting that information is paramount to maintaining that relationship. All of this relationship building matters because, as this powerful quote from Dr. Maya Angelou perfectly illustrates, people will forget what you said, they'll forget what you did, but they will never forget how you made them feel. In a really high-stress res life environment, the emotional space you create for your team is your lasting legacy as a supervisor. And when it comes to communicating value, there is a fascinating contrast you need to keep in mind. Appreciation is actually one of the most highly underutilized tools in management. Too often, staff members just assume they're doing a bad job unless they are explicitly told otherwise. It is absolutely crucial to acknowledge and appreciate the everyday, routine great work your team does. Please don't fall into the trap of only having deep communication during critical problem-solving times or late-night crises. You have to celebrate the mundane wins too. All right, Section 3, mastering clear communication. Because communication is always a two-way street. Good relationships naturally rely heavily on how you communicate. And the most critical point here is how you set expectations. It's a really clear three-step progression. First, be clear. Discuss the expectation directly with them and make absolutely sure everyone is on the same page. Second, break down the why. Explain the reasoning behind the task and how their work actually impacts others in the department. Giving that context is incredibly motivating. And third, listen. Allow them to share what's important to them, their concerns, or even their ideas on how to best achieve the goal. Beyond just setting expectations, your day-to-day communication needs structure. Maintaining a positive tone really helps corral the team better. Keeping your messaging concise and thorough ensures directions aren't getting lost in translation. You also need to figure out exactly how your team likes to be communicated with. Utilize various methods that work for both of you, whether that's a quick GroupMe text for updates or formal emails for official policy changes. And finally, you must provide timely responses to their concerns or issues. Honestly, leaving a stressed staff member on read is one of the fastest ways to totally erode their trust.
Crucially, you've got to communicate through your actions. You literally have to lead by example. This means role modeling the exact target behavior you're looking for. You just can't hold your staff to a standard that you don't meet yourself. If you expect them to be on time for duty rounds, you need to model that exact same punctuality. Furthermore, you need to be informed enough about the day-to-day operations to actually step in and help when things get overwhelming. Always remain collaborative and be open to input and suggestions from your team on the ground.
Moving into section 4, effective delegation and coaching. Let's talk about sharing the load.
Now that we have strong communication and relationships in place, we can scale our efforts outward to managing team operations. A massive part of supervision is sharing the load, but true delegation isn't just dumping your tasks on someone else's desk. It requires a real strategy. You have to get to know your staff and understand their specific strengths. For instance, if you have an RA who is an amazing graphic designer, delegate the hall programming flyers to them. You also need to deeply understand the exact parameters of their roles so you are delegating appropriately and fairly, setting them up for a win rather than a failure. And delegation goes hand in hand with coaching. Remember to continuously pour into your staff's development. Utilize structural resources and documentation, like a GA accountability document, to track their progress, deliver structured feedback, and help your graduate assistants and staff chart their own professional growth. Documentation isn't just for when things go wrong. It is a vital roadmap for when things go right. Finally, Section 5, overcoming common supervisor struggles. Look, even with the best foundations, workplace struggles will inevitably pop up, and there are clear patterns to these pitfalls. This matrix brilliantly illustrates how common missteps, like struggling to motivate employees or failing to delegate work, almost always lead directly to burnout. If you don't delegate, you burn out, and your team feels like you don't trust them. The solution? Understand their strengths and share that load. If work-life lines are unclear and you always feel on, you need to set strict boundaries and be highly efficient with your time. And if you are ever sitting there thinking, I'm not sure how or what to do, which leads to massive stress, the actionable solution is to utilize your own one-on-ones with your director and review your resources to gain the confidence you need. Supervising a resident's life team is incredibly rewarding, but it demands constant evolution. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a final thought to really reflect on for your own journey as a leader. If your ability to supervise only goes as far as your willingness to grow, the ultimate question is this: how far will you grow to support your team? Thanks so much for joining us, and enjoy applying these insights to your own leadership practice.